Alrighty then, sluts, this is Taylor, and I'm going to tell another story from early in my childhood. You guys seem to think they're funny, and I have a lot of fun telling them, so please do me a favor and rate or favorite or clap your hands loudly and wake up your parents or whatever the hell you want to do. And if you enjoyed this, I'm sure you're going to enjoy the video I did last about this. It is the first link in the description. YouTube has been kind of iffy recently with all the unsubscribing active subscribers in addition to all the inactive subscribers. So if you guys will please check that out, first link. I'm sure a lot of you will enjoy it, and I'm positive most of you haven't seen it. So, anywho, first, onto the story. I should establish that this actually takes place on the same playground as the last story, so that's a little bit of an interesting tidbit, but it was 2 or 3 years later. I was in 5th grade, and what you have to realize about my school is that unlike most grade schools, it did not end at 5th grade. Most middle schools go from 6th to 8th. My middle school went from 7th to 8th, and so actually 6th grade was technically still a part of grade school, and so instead of the 5th graders being the big head honchos on campus, the biggest fish in the tiniest little pond, it was the 6th graders who were the biggest fish. And it all kind of culminated one day. People used to do something called like acrobatic challenge or some stupid name that only children would think of, and it was basically where people would get on the playground, on the backside of the playground where the teacher who was advising and watching wouldn't see, and they would try and do cartwheels and front flips and stuff. And it may sound kind of lame, but some of these kids were doing ridiculous things. And when I talk about the jungle gym and the monkey bars, what you have to realize is that these monkey bars were about 7 feet in the air. Now that's no trifling matter for a 4'2", 5th grader. That's a big distance. Like, these were so high that it was difficult to jump up and grab them for a lot of the students. And essentially that is where the best of the best came to do their challenges and to do as best they can. And usually it was sufficient for someone just to jump off and kind of, land on their feet and do like a roll after that, like a little somersault kind of thing. And that was pretty impressive because we were kids and hell, we're impressed easily. But one day it came about where there were 2 kids in the grade above me, the 6th graders, and they were always challenging the 5th graders because they knew they could beat them, and these 2 kids would always duke it out at the end of every acrobatic challenge kind of thing, and it was almost like a fight club kind of thing because we knew immediately if a teacher were to walk back and see all of us doing this, we would immediately get in trouble and have to spend our next like 5 recesses doing jack shit or some sort of boring-ass notebook. And so these 2 kids, still remember their names, Jared and David, they would get up on top of the monkey bars and they would do the standard jump off, and then they would hit the ground and kind of buckle their legs and then go into a somersault or maybe into a cartwheel or something pretty impressive for a 6th grader. And one day they started calling each other out really intensely, and it wasn't so much like an animosity. They were kind of good friends, but at the same time they were trying to show up all the 5th graders and all the other 6th graders and impress all those cute little 10 and 11-year-old teeny bopper girls that were all watching, because the girls would come and watch, and so the dudes they spent a lot of time trying to impress them. And so what happened first is that David, the kid who was kind of understood to be the less good person, he got up there on top of this giant, I'm saying from the perspective of a child, this 7-foot tall monkey bars, and instead of just kind of crouching on there like you usually would and kind of having your hands wrapped around the bars while you're in kind of the squatting poop position, so you didn't have to stand up and balance on the monkey bars all just on your feet and be 13 feet in the air. He just stood up completely on one of the bars and was balancing, not using the horizontal bars to help him, and he went all out, just out of nowhere. I can still remember watching this. He went all out for a front flip, just boom, just jumped up as high as he could. He was so high in the air. I am shocked that the teacher who was on duty didn't turn around and see him soaring like a goddamn eagle, spinning through the air almost like Sonic, just trying to go for that front flip. I can still see it in my head. And honestly, the teacher who was on guard that day and every day that we did that, they should have been fired because this is ridiculous. It was almost comical, like when you watch a movie about prison and you see a prison guard facing the one direction and then like prisoners are like jumping over and like using pole vaults to get over the edge and whatnot. Like, this is honestly what that was like. These teachers must have been blind or high or drunk or just so out of their mind bored that they were just staring into nothingness on the other side of the playground. So this kid is in the air, incredibly high, even for a child, or even for an adult rather, incredibly high, goes for the front flip, overdoes it, and then when he comes down kind of on his wrist, because if you overdo the front flip, you're going to get way too much forward motion, and you're not going to end up coming down in your hands. And he essentially belly flops onto the onto the ground. And this wasn't just, that nice rubber, soft ground that you see a lot now in playgrounds. No, this was jagged-ass wood chips, just awful. Just, if you were to go back to this playground, you would swear to God that the people who made that playground were intending, like, yeah, kids are going to cut the shit out of themselves on these. They're going to own themselves. These are like little spears that we're putting all around. And so this kid comes down, slams like a body slam, but he manages to get one of his wrists under him in time to kind of catch some of the fall, and immediately, as soon as it hits him, you can see his wrist just snap. His wrist breaks, just twists completely to the side. I can't even remember if there was bone showing or anything, but he just started, started screaming, just like a really, really sharp, high-pitched, like, yelp. Just immediately. And immediately a ton of kids ran over and did what all kids do in that situation. They all covered his mouth, and they were like, shh, be quiet, we're going to get in trouble, be quiet, be quiet. And so this 6-year-old kid is sitting there with protrusions from his arms from the wood chips just digging in there. Like, it honestly looked like he just got hit with a shrapnel grenade filled with wood chips all through his arms and his legs, just tons of those little things, little cuts all over the place. On his face he's got cuts, and his wrist is just clearly broken, and everyone is just holding him, telling him to be quiet. And of course he wants to be the cool kid, and so he's sitting there like, okay, I'm not going to do anything, so he sits there and is like, doing that ooh, kind of like little kid pain, mind over matter kind of thing. He sits there. We just kind of put him over and prop him up next to one of the playground little pillars that holds it up. And the next kid gets up there, undeterred from what he has just witnessed, and he is convinced that he can outdo that front flip that he did. Because even though he didn't land the front flip, I mean, come on, man, we were in 5th and 6th grade. It was still pretty goddamn impressive. And so this next kid, Jared, gets up there, and he wants to outdo David, even though David is sitting there on the ground with a broken wrist, holding back tears. And every one of us is still watching like, holy shit, I can't believe he's going to go right after this kid broke his goddamn wrist on the same stunt. And so Jared gets up there, and it looks like he's going to try a front flip too, but at the last second, he turns around, and he goes for a full-on back flip. And this 6th grade kid gets even higher than David did, goes for the full back flip. We were watching it, and unlike David's trick, where you thought that he might land it, and there was like a moment of majesty where he was floating through the air like an Olympian, as soon as Jared took off, you could just see, oh no, this isn't going to work. He didn't tuck correctly, and so his body was still long ways, and magically he managed to get around almost the whole way, and then he landed way too straight onto his leg, and immediately he broke his leg. And so suddenly this kid's yelling out. Immediately kids run and do the same thing, covering his mouth, saying, shh, be quiet, we don't want to get in trouble. Until eventually one girl was like, what the hell, guys? We got to stop this. 2 kids just back-to-back broke bones doing a dumbass stunt off of a fucking 7-foot monkey bars, and the teacher hasn't even seen. We got to get these kids some help. And so thankfully she ran over, got some attention from the teacher, and the teacher ran over and was like, why didn't you tell me? And we all just bullshit, and we're like, oh, they did it at the same time. They both got hurt at the same time. Not our fault. We didn't have anything to do. And all the kids scatter. And then those kids, in addition to getting broken bones, they were punished by having, I think, a suspension from recess for like a month or something, which doesn't make sense, because the one kid who had a broken leg and a broken wrist, like, what are they going to do at recess anyway? Their flipping days are over. What the hell? So that was the story of the 2 biggest dumbasses in 6th grade that I ever witnessed firsthand, breaking bones back-to-back by trying to do ridiculous, jackass-style stunts off of a 7-foot-high monkey bars apparatus. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please leave a rating, and if not, yell at me angrily and tell me how much I suck and should get off YouTube. And also, first link in the description, that is another childhood story, and I'd be very, very appreciative if you guys would check that out. That's all I have to say for now, and I love you.